1 of 59. My fanfic got exposed in class, to the main characters. Okay, picture this. You're sitting in class, minding your own business, typing your latest fanfic about your super hot deskmate and his even hotter best friend, when suddenly, your screen is projected onto the giant lecture hall screen for everyone to see. Yep, I accidentally shared my deepest, most embarrassing writing with the entire campus. And it gets worse, my deskmate not only reads it, but he starts critiquing my work. Now I'm stuck in a very awkward situation with him and his best friend. Stick around to hear how this train wreck turned into something, well, unexpected. Silly story begins. Please like and subscribe. Act 1, The Fanfiction Scandal. I never asked to be the main character of a campus-wide scandal. 1 minute, I was just an anonymous fanfic writer, crafting forbidden romances in the shadows of my dorm room, thriving on late-night inspiration and a concerning amount of caffeine. The next, my secret fantasies were being projected onto the biggest screen in the lecture hall, exposing me as the Shakespeare in sweatpants behind the internet's most obsessed over ship. My name is Lily Carter, and I have a problem. A very, very hot problem. 2 of them, actually. Problem number 1. No avail. Dark-haired, sharp-jawed, and devastatingly intelligent. The kind of guy who reads literary theory for fun and makes professors question their own credentials. He rarely speaks, but when he does, it's either a devastating intellectual burn or something so profound it could be framed and mounted in a museum. He's rumored to have rejected at least 3 confessions per semester, possibly because he finds human emotions too pedestrian. Problem number 2, Leo Brooks. Noah's best friend and the exact opposite in every way. Where Noah is a brooding enigma, Leo is the golden retriever of our campus, charming, effortlessly funny, and so naturally magnetic that people orbit around him like he's the sun. Captain of the debate team, notorious flirt, and the only person who can get Noah to laugh without risking his life in the process. Together they are the ship. The entire student body is obsessed with them, their dynamic, their undeniable chemistry. The Noah x Leo fandom thrives in every group chat, every meme thread, every whispered conversation in the library. And I'm basically the captain of that ship. Under the alias Shakespeare in sweatpants, I run Dark Academia Desires, an anonymous fanfic blog dedicated to their painfully slow burn. Will they? Won't they romance? I craft stories of stolen glances in the library, tension so thick you could cut it with a dull butter knife, and of course, the classic oh no there's only one bed trope. It was my guilty pleasure, my secret world, my perfectly contained anonymous escape. Until today, until disaster struck in the most catastrophic way possible. It started like any other Tuesday, meaning, I was aggressively procrastinating. The lecture was a monotonous drone in the background as I hunched over my laptop, lost in my latest masterpiece. Noah pinned Leo against the library shelves, their breaths mingling in the dim light. His voice was low, dangerous. Will you finally admit it? I was in the zone, fingers flying across the keyboard, heart pounding as if I were living the scene myself. The tension, the drama, the inevitable confession. Miss Carter, would you mind sharing your notes with the class? My soul left my body. I looked up in slow motion, blood draining from my face. The professor, our perpetually exhausted, tenure-clinging professor, stood at the front, eyebrows raised expectantly. Notes. Notes? I scrambled. I panicked. My brain short-circuited. My fingers, operating on full-blown terror autopilot, hit the wrong button. Instead of my actual lecture notes, my fanfic, my extremely detailed, extremely suggestive fanfic, flashed onto the giant lecture hall projector. Silence. Dead. Horrified. Silence. Then a single, slow inhale. From no avail. I could feel his eyes on me, cold and calculating, like a scientist examining a particularly stupid lab rat. I forced myself to look at him. Mistake. Big mistake. He was smirking. And then, with the entire lecture hall holding its breath, with my dignity crumbling into dust, Noah Vale tilted his head, met my gaze, and asked, "So, top or bottom?" Chaos. Absolute, earth-shattering chaos. Students screamed. Someone actually fell out of their chair. A guy in the back row gasped, "Holy sh!" so loudly it echoed. The professor muttered, "I don't get paid enough for this," and took a very long sip of his coffee. Meanwhile, Leo Brooks, human golden retriever, source of all my problems, was dying. His forehead hit his desk as he wheezed with laughter, shoulders shaking, barely managing to gasp out, I can't breathe." And me? I was mentally calculating how quickly I could drop out, transfer to a different country, and assume a new identity. Canada wasn't that far. Maybe I could live in the mountains. Start a new life as a hermit. Noah was still looking at me, waiting. Smirking. I opened my mouth. I closed it. No words came out. Act 2. Damage control? More like damage amplified. I should have stayed home. Actually, I should have faked my own death, changed my name, and started a quiet life raising goats in the Swiss Alps, far away from any form of internet connection. Because the moment I stepped onto campus, I realized that I wasn't just a student anymore. I was a legend. Whispers followed me down hallways. People I had never spoken to in my life suddenly knew me. I walked past a group of freshmen, only to hear someone hiss, "That's her." I turned a corner near the library and spotted a guy holding up his phone, reading my fic aloud to his friends between bouts of unhinged laughter. And then there were the memes. Oh God, the memes. The campus forums had gone feral overnight. Screenshots of my fanfic were circulating with titles like The Gospel According to Shakespeare in Sweetpants and Lily Carter's magnum opus. Someone even photoshopped Noah's face onto the cover of a romance novel. It would have been almost flattering if it weren't actively ruining my life. Even the professors were in on it. One of them handed back my latest literature essay, with a smug red note scrawled in the margin, "Interesting narrative voice." But would Noah approve? I wanted to die. Or, at the very least, disappear into a hole so deep that not even Wi-Fi signals could reach me. And just when I thought my day couldn't possibly get worse, Noah Vale found me. I was at my usual spot in the student lounge, aggressively shoving my laptop into my backpack, fully prepared to fake an illness, or, if necessary, a coma, to avoid further humiliation. Then, suddenly, a shadow loomed over me. "You got my personality all wrong," a familiar, maddeningly calm voice said. My entire body locked up. I didn't need to look. I knew. I turned my head anyway, slowly, like someone in a horror movie about to confirm the worst. Noah Vale stood over me, arms crossed, looking as effortlessly superior as ever. My mouth opened, closed, reopened. "Excuse me," he tapped a finger against his chin, pretending to think. I'd never say something that cheesy. I stared at him. My brain was buffering. What? And Leo, he continued, like he wasn't actively ruining my existence, would never let himself get pinned against a bookshelf. He's way too cocky. I blinked. Then blinked again. My brain was screaming. Are you critiquing my fanfic?" Noah shrugged. "Your characterization needs work." I wasn't sure whether to be mortified or offended. And then it hit me. A truly horrifying realization. I inhaled sharply. "You read my fanfic?" For a second, he didn't say anything. He just watched me with that unreadable, infuriatingly composed expression. Then, a slow, insufferable smirk spread across his face. "Oh, Lily." He tilted his head, eyes gleaming with something far too amused for my liking. "I've been reading your fanfic for months." That's when I knew I was doomed. Act 3, Real Life Imitating Fiction. Noah Vale blackmailed me. Not for money? Not for homework help? Not even for something normal like a free coffee? No. Noah Vale, the literal inspiration behind my wildly popular, tragically slow-burn fanfic, wanted input. "If you're going to write about me," he said one afternoon, sliding a notebook across the table, "at least make it accurate." I looked down. The cover in his neat, precise handwriting read, "Dark Academia Desires? Realistic Edition." I blinked, then looked back up at him. "You're joking." Noah just stared at me, completely serious. "I don't joke. You absolutely joke," I shot back. "You just prefer your humor dry and devastating." That earned the tiniest smirk, which was already deeply unfair. "I'm just saying," he continued, as if this was a completely normal conversation, "your portrayal of me is exaggerated." "Exaggerated?" I repeated, incredulous. "You smirk ominously at least 6 times a day. If anything, I toned you down." Noah leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "I do not smirk ominously." As if on cue, the exact expression I was describing settled onto his face. I pointed at him. "That, right there. That's what I mean." He exhaled, long-suffering. "Just read the notes, Carter." I picked up the notebook and, against my better judgment, flipped it open. Page 1. Noah would never say something as ridiculous as "Will you finally admit it? Please be realistic." Page 2. Leo is not a blushing, helpless fool. If anyone is pinning anyone against a bookshelf, it's him. Page 3. I don't brood. I think deeply. Page 4. Why do I smirk so much in your writing? I don't smirk that much. I snapped the notebook shut and gave him a flat look. "This is insane." "This is research," he corrected. I groaned, dropping my head into my hands. This was my actual life now. And then, because the universe clearly hated me, Leo Brooks found out. Instead of being horrified or mad, like any normal person would be, he immediately decided to participate. Whoa! This is fantastic, he had declared when he found me in the student lounge, laughing so hard he had to clutch his stomach. No avail, taking fanfiction accuracy seriously. This is art. From that moment on, he became insufferable. Every time I was within 10 feet of them, Leo went into theatrics. Should we tell her our secret? He'd whisper dramatically, leaning against Noah's shoulder, like a scandalized Victorian heroine. Then he'd turn to me, winking obnoxiously. Or worse, he'd sigh wistfully, gaze at Noah with fake longing, and murmur, "Ah, my tragic, unspoken love. Will we ever be free?" Noah, who allegedly did not joke, played along just enough to make me want to yeet myself into the sun. It was humiliating. It was also, admittedly, great material. But then, something started to shift. At first, I thought I was imagining it, that my overactive writer brain was projecting drama where there was none. But then I noticed the real tension. The lingering glances when they thought no one was looking. The quiet, intense conversations that stopped the second someone else walked into the room. The way Noah's jaw clenched when Leo flirted with someone else, like it physically bothered him. This was no longer just a joke. Which was why, when the ultimate plot twist happened, I should have been more prepared. I wasn't. It happened at a party? The kind of loud, sweaty, borderline chaotic gathering where drunk people yelled their life stories to strangers, and someone inevitably tried to start a mosh pit to a Taylor Swift song. I was on my way to grab a drink when suddenly, Leo materialized beside me. Drunk, dramatic, absolutely plastered. "Lily, sweetheart," he slurred, throwing an arm around my shoulders. "You know Noah was never into me, right?" I blinked. My brain short-circuited. What? Leo grinned at me, all lopsided and teasing. "He's into you, idiot?" My heart stopped. Act 4, the grand finale. I panicked. Like, full-blown, Olympic level, change my name and flee the country kind of panicked. After Leo dropped his little truth bomb, at the party, I did what any rational person would do. I shut down completely. I stopped writing. I ignored Noah. I avoided Leo. I basically spent an entire week darting through campus like I was in a high-stakes spy thriller, dodging them at every turn. If I so much as sensed Noah within a 10-foot radius, I vanished like a magician mid-act. It was not my finest display of maturity. But what else was I supposed to do? Walk up to Noah and say, "Hey, remember that time I turned you into the tragic protagonist of an angsty slow-burn romance? Whoops, turns out I actually do have feelings for you. My bad." Yeah. No. So I chose avoidance. I chose denial. And it worked. Until it didn't. Because one morning, I walked into class, fully prepared to resume my tactical evasion plan, only to find Noah Vale standing at my desk, holding a stack of printed papers. My stomach dropped. "Morning, Carter," he said smoothly. I swallowed. "Morning?" He glanced down at the pages in his hand. "You know, I was starting to get worried. It's been, 2 weeks since you posted a new fic. Your fans must be devastated." I stiffened. I've been busy." Uh-huh. He flipped through the pages. "Funny thing, though, I did find something new." My blood turned to ice. "I haven't posted anything new." Noah smirked. "I know." And then, because he was apparently committed to my suffering, he cleared his throat and started reading aloud. He wasn't meant to be a character in her stories. He was meant to be the main character in her life. Silence. Actual, deafening silence. I wanted to evaporate. Or set myself on fire. Possibly both. My entire body locked up. That was from my private writing folder. The one I swore I'd never let see the light of day. I snatched at the pages. "Where did you get that?" Noah held them just out of reach, his stupid smirk deepening. "You left your laptop open in the lounge the other day. I may have taken a peek." "Oh my god." I squeezed my eyes shut. "Oh my god. This is good, by the way," he added. "Really poetic. A little dramatic, but that's on brand for you." I groaned into my hands. "Noah, stop." He ignored me. "So," he lowered the pages, meeting my gaze. "Is this your way of saying you're in love with me?" I choked. The entire class, every single one of our classmates who had just witnessed this, was hanging on my response. I wanted to die. Instead, I made a small, pathetic noise. Then, barely above a whisper, I squeaked, "Maybe." A slow, satisfied grin spread across his face. And just like that, Noah Vale won. Somehow, against all odds. Lily Carter, campus-wide embarrassment, fanfiction disaster, self-proclaimed avoider of feelings, ended up with a boyfriend. A boyfriend who now edits my fanfiction drafts before I post them. Your dialogue still needs work, he critiques, highlighting entire paragraphs. And please, for the love of God, stop making me smirk so much. Meanwhile, Leo has discovered a brand new hobby, performing dramatic readings of my old fics on TikTok. His latest post? A theatrical reenactment of my most infamous scene, complete with a tragic violin soundtrack, and the caption. And thus, the smoldering glances began. He's at 30,000 followers. I don't want to talk about it, but somehow, I still have no regrets. One afternoon, curled up on the couch with Noah, I absent-mindedly scroll through my phone when he murmurs, "You know, I think it's time we co-write something together." I glance up at him, raising an eyebrow. What, like? Fanfiction? He smirks. No. Something real. I blush, looking away. I'll think about it. Leo, who is, of course, eavesdropping, snorts. Call it dark academia disasters. Because, let's be honest, that's what this has been. I laugh. Noah kisses my forehead. And for the first time, I realize, maybe some stories really do get a happy ending. The end. If your most embarrassing moment got exposed to an entire lecture hall, how would you recover? Or would you just drop out and start a new life? Let me know in the comments.